Alright, well, now we come to the fifth movie in the series of DC animated original movies, titled Green Lantern First Flight. Now, before I say any more, I think the biggest compliment, the best all-encompassing statement that I can make about this movie, both in terms of its plot and in terms of what it does right, is that this movie does for the Green Lantern what the previous film did for Wonder Woman. This is another very accomplished origin story with very talented voice acting, great animation, and really really a focus on getting to know the central character, on getting to know what his personality is and why he's a superhero, so on and so forth. And for them to capture that so well in an animated movie, I shouldn't really be surprised. I mean, I'm usually the one screaming for more respect for animated features, but to capture that in, how long is this thing? A 75-minute movie. It's pretty impressive. Now, again, like with Wonder Woman, there are some flaws, namely, again, in regards to its length. But, again, also with Wonder Woman, I keep saying again, this movie does enough right to where you don't really notice the flaws all that much. They are there, but they're not what you remember coming out of it. When I came out of this movie, I felt like I had seen the quintessential Green Lantern origin story, the way it should have been done. It's, to say the least, it's better than the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern. And all in all, that movie gets, I think, a little too much flack from fans. Not that it's a good movie. It's not a good movie, but Ryan Reynolds wasn't really that bad in the role. He did all right. The acting wasn't bad. Mark Strong made an awesome Sinestro, but I'm getting ahead of myself. The plot of this movie is that at the okay, I'm trying to think of the best way to explain this for those who are unfamiliar with the source material. In the galaxy, there exists a Green Lantern Corps, and these are basically the policemen of the entire universe. They basically assign one defender for each sector. I hope I'm getting that right. One defender for each sector, roughly, and that person, dubbed the Green Lantern of that sector, basically patrols and stops intergalactic threats in said sector. Now, the source of their power is this mythical green energy that is activated and strengthened by one's willpower. And the Guardians of Oa, which is the homeworld of the Green Lanterns, have somehow managed to channel this energy, this green energy, into these rings, and they distribute the rings to each of the Green Lantern Guardians, or each member of the Green Lantern Corps. So each, and the ring supposedly chooses its wearer. The ring chooses someone who it knows has a strong will and has the ability to overcome fear, because fear is what negates this force. And fear manifests itself as this yellow energy, which comes up later in the movie, but I don't want to get too spoilerish. So a very prolific and accomplished Green Lantern known as Abin Sur dies when he crash lands on Earth. He uses his ring to summon forth the next user of said ring, and the ring chooses a pilot known as Hal Jordan. And before he knows it, Hal is brought to Abin Sur's deathbed, and he has made the new wearer of Abin Sur's ring. And before he knows it, he is whisked off to Oa, not only to train as a Green Lantern, but also to discover just how prolific Abin Sur was and what it truly means to conquer your fear and become a Green Lantern. So that's the basic premise. Now, again, what does this movie do right? Well, the voice acting. The voice acting is phenomenal, like in the Wonder Woman movie. Hal Jordan is voiced by Christopher Meloni, and without thinking too hard about it, he might be my favorite version of Hal Jordan. I can't really think of too many others. I mean, Nathan Fillion played him in a later movie. There was whoever they got to play him when he cameoed in Justice League Unlimited. There's Josh Keaton in the recent animated series. So Christopher Meloni is my favorite Hal Jordan. He does a phenomenal job. He adds so much humanity to this character, and he adds such relatability to this character, because you really do believe that while he is an exceptional being in terms of his daring, because he's obviously, like I said, he's a test pilot. He obviously has potential for great courage, which is one of the big reasons why the ring chose him. But also, you get the sense that he is every bit a regular guy. He's a regular guy who is thrust into this extraterrestrial scenario, and whenever the script calls for him to be funny, he's funny. Whenever the script calls for him to be serious and dramatic, he does that well too. Christopher Meloni does a fantastic job in this movie. Sinestro is played by Victor Garber. Now, Sinestro was Abin Sur's closest friend, so the job is on him to personally train Hal Jordan as this sort of mentor figure. But it turns out Sinestro it doesn't. There's no may to it. Sinestro does not agree with the practices and the beliefs of the Guardians of Oa. So this, which actually leads to a common criticism about this movie, but I'll get to that later. Victor Garber also does a very good job as Sinestro. He's not mustache-twirlingly evil, despite his slightly laughable design. Like he's red, and he's got a mustache, and he's always got this scowl on his face. But honestly, you really do see where this guy is coming from. You see why he's dissatisfied with the Green Lanterns. You see that he genuinely feels remorse over not having been there when Abin Sur was dying. And like with Christopher Meloni, Victor Garber does lend a lot of humanity to this character, a character who could have easily been written off as this stock bad guy. And when he needs to be menacing, he's menacing. I don't think I'm giving anything away here. His name is Sinestro. Alright, so he's really good. Michael Madsen is in this movie as Kilowog. Kilowog is this big, bulky alien guy. He's another Green Lantern in the Corps, and he basically he's this kind of R. Lee Emery-esque drill sergeant, where he's like, this kid ain't even trained. He's this very hard-boiled guy. Madsen does that very well. But again, he's not a stock character. There is more than one dimension to this guy. Which, with a design like this, with a very over-the-top design like this, can be kind of difficult to lend some gravity. Not a whole lot, because he's not the main character, but to lend some semblance of gravity to this very out-of-this-world alien character, while at the same time has a pretty familiar personality that kind of borders on Army Colonel stereotype. Takes talent, and Madsen does that well. John Larroquette as Tomar Ray, Tricia Helfer as Boudica. They're good. I mean they're not really given a whole lot of screen time, because they are just kind of side characters. Tomar-Re and Boudica don't exactly come into the central conflict all that much. I mean, they are there. They're not completely pushed to the side. They are involved, but like I said, it's not as though they're the main character. This is Hal Jordan's movie, as it should be. And the lack of screen time for the side characters can be attributed, I think, to the length of the movie. And again, I'll get to that in a second. But at this point, it's kind of become a point of redundancy that I keep talking about how short these movies are. But again, I'll get to that in a second. Richard McGonagle is good in his very short time as Abin Sur. Richard McGonagle, you know, I only know him as Sully, but this demonstrates some welcome range. Because I've only ever heard Richard McGonagle in the Uncharted games as Victor Goddamn Sullivan. So it was nice to hear him kind of branch out. He makes a very good Abin Sur, although Abin Sur isn't really in the movie all that much for obvious reasons. And the rest of the voice cast, like Rob Paulsen, and who else is in this movie? The Guardians of Oa are really good. They have this very dignified authority about them, while at the same time you can tell that they are. This is one thing I had a problem with in the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie, is that you don't actually get the sense that the Guardians of Oa have any distinct personality. No, in here they do have personality. They're not just these very godlike beings. They are fallible. They do make mistakes, lapses in judgment, which in retrospect adds all the more importance to choosing the right guy for each ring. So, what else does this movie do right? Well, the animation, like I said, is gorgeous. Animation enables you to show these very extraterrestrial, out of this world images and kind of blend them in better with very real world stuff like test pilots and humans. I think in a way that's less jarring than if you did it live action. I mean, in the live action movie, it was kind of jarring when all of a sudden Hal Jordan, this Earth guy, was thrust onto Oa, the planet's CGI. I mean, here it's nowhere near as jarring, but at the same time, you don't really lose that human element that really helps ground this movie in, I don't want to say reality, but a realistic emotional plane. In the sense that you buy where Hal is coming from, and so on and so forth. So yeah, without getting too off topic, animation allows you to show these images. Animation allows you to do things that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do as smoothly, at least, in live action. And they take full advantage of that here. The Green Lantern Corps looks awesome. I really like the costumes. I really like the Green Lantern uniforms. They're kind of this hybrid between very light armor with these shoulder pads, while also looking kind of like this jumpsuit. It seems like a very inspired design, so it works. You're not laughing at the Green Lantern Corps. They do explain what the Green Lanterns do. They do explain how they get their power, and I think that's the biggest thing is that it makes this story. They make this story accessible to newcomers, much in the same way that they did with Wonder Woman. Yeah, there are some things that you're just going to have to buy. For instance, there, We Are Not Alone in the Universe. They immediately tossed that out the window with Hal Jordan and Sinestro going to all these alien planets and finding all these alien beings and interacting with them. That's something that newcomers might just have to accept, because comics, it's kind of like the invisible jet in Wonder Woman, and this is something I actually forgot to bring up in the Wonder Woman review, is that someone might be a little put off or confused when the invisible jet shows up seemingly out of nowhere in the Wonder Woman movie, but again, it doesn't really take you out of the movie, or at least not significantly. And like I said, it is a very accomplished origin story. And one common criticism I've read about this movie is that it's basically Training Day in space. Well, kind of. Kind of. Because Training Day, I like Training Day. And when I think about it, Sinestro does kind of take the place of the Denzel Washington character, and Hal Jordan does kind of take the place of the Ethan Hawke character. So yeah, I can definitely see where those comparisons are coming from. However, I think it's called for. I don't think there was ever any intention to rip off Training Day. And even if there was, it's Training Day. It's not like you're ripping off something like a Paul W.S. Anderson movie. You're ripping off a genuinely good crime movie. So, but again, it's not like they're ripping off Training Day. They do enough here to where they're likely you won't be drawing too many comparisons, or you likely will not be shouting "rip off." So, yeah, I see where they're coming from, but they do not diminish the experience. The relationship between Hal and Sinestro is still there, and it is similar to the relationship in Training Day, but the dynamic, they make the dynamic different enough to where it doesn't really take you out of the experience. You're not distracted by comparing it to Training Day. And like I said, it's still interesting. You still want to see where this relationship is going. You still care about what Hal is going through. You still care about what he experiences during his time in the Corps. So, yeah, all around, or almost all around, this is a very, very solid introduction to the Green Lantern. And again, I recommend it to anyone who has ever had a passing interest in comic book superheroes. I recommend it to anyone who wants a very good origin story for this relatively obscure character. Now, I'm not saying he's obscure in the sense that I don't know, Booster Gold is obscure. I'm just saying obscure to mainstream audiences, because mainstream audiences who are not at all interested in comic books or comic book characters, they only know him from the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern. So yeah, that is the point of the review. Do watch this instead of the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern. But yeah, if I did have problems with this movie, again, those can be attributed to the length. This again is 75 minutes, an hour and 15 minutes, not very long. So as a result, toward the beginning, it feels kind of rapid fire. It feels kind of rushed, because Hal Jordan meets Abin Sur and gains the ring within the first 5 minutes of the movie. And then the next 5 minutes, it immediately cuts to him practicing with the ring and then subsequently being whisked off to Oa to begin his training. So we don't really get as much time as I thought was necessary to really develop the character of Hal Jordan and further develop who he was as a character before he got the ring. And doing so would have probably made the ring's decision a lot more credible. It would have shown us, okay, why did the ring choose this guy? I mean, there is a brief introduction where he's flying a flight simulator, and you do see his personality, but it wasn't enough, in my opinion. I do think there should have been a few more scenes there. And again, maybe they're just limited by what they can do, either whether it be budgetary limitations or a studio limitation on the time limit. I don't know. But the point is, those first few scenes move a little too quick and with not enough tying them together in terms of development. So yeah, aside from that obvious flaw that was brought about by the short runtime, this is a very good Green Lantern movie, and it's even a fairly enjoyable space adventure. I mean, you will be entertained by this movie, most likely, if you're looking for a rousing space adventure with fairly interesting characters. So yeah, that's about all I got for Green Lantern First Flight. Again, very well done origin story, and I look forward to the next of these movies. Although I've seen all of them, this is kind of a retrospective, but yeah, that was the best way I could think of to segue out of this video. Now I have no idea what I'm going to do. So I guess bye.